Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to my space, my environment, of course. Kamalamdung Onela Sigobelona. And thank you so much for subscribing to my channel. Yo guys, I am so grateful to what you guys are doing. Thank you very much. It's much appreciated from me to you. So today I want to talk about finding my purpose. And this is something that was requested by one of my subscribers, Usihle Mpekeka. She requested that I speak about purpose. So today I'm going to talk about finding my purpose. Years back, I think when I was 17 years, I started having this obsession about myself. The kind of obsession that I'm called and that I'm meant to stand in front of people, in front of thousands, and say something. But the problem was that I did not know what I was going to say to the people. But that did not matter. I continued having that obsession to a point where I started writing down every time this thought. I would pin it down. At that time, I used to love writing so much that when I was writing it down, it ended up becoming some sort of like a booklet or something. And when it became that, I decided, you know what, let me give it a title. And the title I gave it was The Called Forth. So I started to call myself The Called Forth. And when I started calling myself that, and in that process of writing, I learned of a God who equips. I learned that God does not only call the equipped, but He equips the called. As I was learning about that, I started wanting to know that how can I be equipped by God? And I started wanting to find out, but okay, now that I'm called forth, itini into yam. So I had this obsession now of wanting to know, what am I called for? I went on to read about the Fivefold Ministry with the hopes that as I'm reading about the Fivefold Ministry, I'll be able to pick A1, Payana and Diti, this is me. Because at that time, I was so obsessed about giving it a title. Why am I called forth? I wanted to give it a title. Like, I wanted it to be so clear that when I wake up in the morning, I just know that I am this. I don't have to say, I'm called for this. It may one word. If I'm a pastor, I just wake up and say I'm a pastor. If I'm an evangelist, I wake up and say I'm an evangelist. If I'm a prophet, I just wanted it to have a title. I was just obsessed with it having a title. And as I was reading about the Fivefold Ministry, I could not pick just only one to say, this is me. And I was quite disappointed because I was disappointed at the fact that I could not pick one. And another thing I discovered is that I could find myself in each of them, and I could not pick one. So I decided, you know what, this thing is disappointing, and let me just forget about me being the called forth, and I put it on pause. I went on with my life. And then it came back again in 2017. Again, this question came, I'm a called forth, but what am I called for? What is my purpose? Now, when I define a purpose, I like to say a purpose, like to make it easy for me and quicker for me to understand, I define purpose as what God created me for, like just that. When I hear the word purpose, to me it simply means and that's just that. 2017, 2018, I began making this my prayer. I prayed a lot, I fasted a lot, I fervented in prayer a lot because I was so obsessed with finding out that And in that process of fasting and praying, I don't want to lie, a lot happened in my life. Shuffling was done. The relationship I had with certain people, they had to be cut. And even in my family, a lot happened. I remember I lost in 2017 grandmother. I was raised by my grandmother and my grandfather because my mother had me when she was very young. So I lost my mother because she was like my mother. And when I lost her, I did not focus on me losing her, but I focused on wanting to find out why, because that's the kind of space I was in at that time. And I remember when I started to ask God why did I lose her? The answer God gave me was because He wanted to appoint me as the spiritual leader of my family. And that too alone took its toll, because to be a spiritual leader of your family is just something else. It's something else. It's a story for another day. So I continued with my life. I grieved and I moved on, and I continued to want to find out about Doni purpose, yeah. And when I found out my purpose, it was okay, right after shifting from losing my grandmother and moving on with my life, boom, now I'm going back to radio. I'm working as a radio presenter, and within a month I got back to radio. I'm being given a radio show where I have to pray for people, where I have to pray and break chains in people's lives, like chains that have been there for years, those chains that are just hard to break. People were calling in, asking me to pray for them, and that alone was just even something else. From there, shifting from that one, I get proposed for marriage. So a lot was just happening. But in all of these things that were happening, they were my answers. It was like one answer, then I get to this season, at this point, I get another answer. I get another answer, to me finally getting to know that uThixo undibizele ntoni and what my purpose is. So after I discovered my purpose, I discovered a few things, and things that make one, we find the purpose, yeah. Because when you find your purpose, number one, your purpose is your purpose. It can be similar to Ekaban, but you were created specifically for that one, and it's just yours alone. And so another thing I found difficult when it comes to finding my purpose is that once you found it, you panic, because sometimes purpose yako can be something abantu that are not familiar with, and you panic because you think, but they're gonna take time to understand this, this, that. So that too is a barrier. You struggle to tap into it, and when you've tapped into it, you panic. And sometimes when you've tapped into it, kungabi lula, it's easy for you to quit, because you're thinking to yourself, this thing is not easy. And sometimes when you tap into it, you know, and then you just want to even quit, because your purpose is between you and God. It's something that He has given you to give to the people. So I made a lot of mistakes. I procrastinated a lot of times. Even after finding it, I did not tap into it directly, because you know, when you are given something, and something that is not abantu abangakho familiar nayo, you want people to be familiar with it. Even if I qheleka, but ufuna iqheleke. And I procrastinated. I focused on izinto ezinganamsebenzi. Like, I remember I would be given a task and I would be like, no, but God, I think I don't have enough resources to do this. And sometimes I would have enough resources and the strength, and I would be like, no, I don't think Nandi in the eloquent, I don't have the vocabulary that would make people listen to me, you know. I focused on my vocabulary, I focused on my resources, I focused on my feelings, but I'm not feeling well today, you know. And once you procrastinate and you run out of time, and once you found your purpose and you procrastinate and you're given an assignment and you run out of time, then you have to pay. You have to pay. And I don't want to lie, when I have to pay, it being a bit mnand, because sometimes I would have to pay with my life, I would have to pay with my marriage, I would have to pay with my finances, with a lot of things that if Bendiza were blessed in them, which is when I learned that obedience is better than sacrifice. So when you are in a journey of finding your purpose, I pray that you be in it for real, because indaba ye purpose is so sensitive. Indaba ye purpose, ifuna umuntu who's gonna be in it for real. And when you are in it for real, you are going to be sensitive to everything. You're going to be sensitive to the Spirit, because it's about you and God. It's about you, and depending on what He has said you should do, He will say to you, go and walk on water, and you will panic because you have never seen that happen. But if you're sensitive to the Spirit, and if you're focusing on God, and if you're depending on Him, then you will know that it's possible, because awuzenzel uyenziso. So Finding your purpose has got to do with wanting to be a messenger, being willing to do whatever you will be told to do, because i-purpose yakho yilanto uzayixelela uba yenze and iphelele apha. Awuzoxelelwa into oqhelileyo uyenza, uzoxelelwa into you've never done, and sometimes you will even doubt yourself that you are able to do it. So when you're sensitive to the Spirit, you will be able to hear God clearly when you pray, when you fast, when you read the word. You'll hear him clearly, because according those distorted message. But if you're going to focus on this, and then you make finding your purpose last on your list, then you're gonna have a problem. So finding your purpose is not something enzima, but it's something that you must be willing. You must be willing to do wholeheartedly. You must have a heart that is willing, a heart that is willing to listen to God, a heart that is willing to trust God, a heart that is willing to do in the. And I found my purpose, and it's even challenging even now, because sometimes sometimes I panic, sometimes I want to be so and so, sometimes I set standards for myself and say, you know, if in the level kaban, I'll be able to do it well, if in the level kaban, and God wants me to do it at this level that I'm at. He has not set any standards for me, and he knows that the right level, because sometimes you want to do it because you need to be at a certain level, which now comes back and makes sense to me that God does not call people who are already equipped. He equips people that he has called. So if you are if you want to find your purpose, be in it for real, zinikele, and be willing to do what God instructs you to do. Pray a lot, fast a lot, read the word a lot, pray again a lot, fast a lot, because that's where you're gonna get your answers, and depend fully on him. Also, what I would even advise is that you can pray for God to give you a mentor, someone who's gonna help you understand someone who's gonna help you when you feel like someone's gonna even nurture what you have and be your support system, because it helps a lot when you have someone who's holding your hand. And even though uzabana who's holding your hand, depend on God fully, be in it for real, and be prayerful. Be a person who fasts even if it's not a season of fasting, fast. Pray even if it's not a season of praying, pray, because when we are yazbana wenza ntoni, and we are yazbana focus and we are yazbana what you are hoping to achieve by doing that. So that is how I was able to find my purpose. I chose to depend fully on God. I lost to find everything. So that is all about e-purpose. That is my journey with e-purpose. E-purpose has got to do with what God has created you to do. And into uThixo ngicreatele yona mina ingangabile acreatele yona wena. And it does not mean that is not your purpose. It reminds me of Sister Moses in the Bible. She took for granted into uThixo ngicalele yona, because sometimes I be cute, sometimes I be glamorous, sometimes I be you know, but it does not change that it's what God has called you for. It does not change the fact that he wants you to do that. He trusts you well enough. So don't take it for granted. And you know, when I had this obsession of me being called, I thought it was going to be something glamorous, and and I call it cute. It's not cute at all, but it is what God has created me for. So I hope you are able to pick a thing or two from this video, that finding your purpose is all about depending on God. And when you are in a journey of finding your purpose, be in it for real, because when you're in it for real, then you are all able to be sensitive to the Spirit. You are able to depend fully on God and not on other things. And when you found your purpose, know that it's normal to panic, know that it's normal to doubt it, know that it's normal to be afraid to tap into it, but it does not change the fact that that is your purpose.